She is remembered as the woman with the apple, the one who listened to the serpent, the one who tempted Adam, the one who brought sin into the world. For thousands of years, Eve has been blamed, shamed, and reduced to a single act, but her story is not so simple. Beneath centuries of misinterpretation lies a richer truth, one of life, resilience, and humanity itself. Today, we reclaim her story. Eve, the first woman, the mother of all living, and one of the most misunderstood figures in history. The story begins in a paradise called Eden. The book of Genesis describes it as a place of perfect harmony, a lush garden with 4 rivers, abundant fruit, and a seamless connection between humanity, nature, and the divine. For its ancient audience, Eden wasn't just a physical place. It was a cosmic garden, a sacred space reminiscent of myths from neighboring Mesopotamia. It symbolized order, perfection, and divine presence on earth. Into this perfect world, the first human Adam is formed from dust. But creation isn't complete. God declares it is not good for the man to be alone. So Eve is created. But pay close attention to how Genesis says she is formed from Adam's side, a detail that symbolizes profound unity and partnership. The original Hebrew word used to describe her role is *isa, kenegdo *. This phrase has been historically mistranslated as helper, implying a subordinate. But its true meaning is far more powerful, a strength corresponding to him. Eve isn't an assistant. She is an equal, a counterpart essential for humanity to be whole. Her arrival is the crowning touch of creation. Then the serpent appears. In our modern minds, the serpent is a symbol of pure evil, but in the ancient Near East, it was a complex figure representing wisdom, healing, and even immortality. Eve's conversation with the serpent isn't a mindless surrender. She is thoughtful, she is engaged, she debates the divine command and the serpent's counter-argument. She is portrayed as an active intellectual agent. And then comes the pivotal moment in Genesis 3, verse 6. She takes the fruit and eats. But she doesn't do it in secret. The text explicitly says she gave some to her husband, who was with her. Adam wasn't off somewhere else. He was present, a silent partner in this monumental choice. This wasn't just about disobedience. It was a quest for something more, for wisdom, for autonomy, for the moral awareness that separates knowing right from wrong. In some Jewish traditions, this event isn't called the fall, it's seen as the birth of freedom. The consequences are immediate and severe. They are exiled from Eden, sentenced to lives of toil, pain, and mortality. But this is not the end. Eve is not destroyed. Instead, she is given a new name, Mother of all living. Exile marks the beginning of the human story as we know it, a story of struggle, but also of growth, family, and civilization. Unlike the Greek myth of Pandora, who unleashes only suffering upon the world, Eve's choice leads to a more complex reality. It's a tragedy, Yes, but it's also an opportunity. It is the moment humanity steps out of sheltered innocence and into the difficult, beautiful, and complicated world of freedom. In rabbinic Jewish tradition, the debate over Eve has raged for centuries. She is a figure of immense complexity. Some commentaries do blame her for bringing death into the world, holding her responsible for mortality. Yet, others view her with more nuance, seeing her as a courageous seeker of wisdom, someone who was willing to risk everything for knowledge. The Midrash, the vast collection of rabbinic literature, doesn't erase her. Instead, it engages with her, discusses her motivations, and explores her role as a partner in creation. In some mystical Jewish texts, she embodies both danger and divine potential, representing the dual nature of human freedom itself. She is not a flat character. She is a mirror reflecting humanity's own complex journey. As Christianity emerged, Eve's image underwent a dramatic and lasting transformation. Early church fathers, like Tertullian in the 2nd century, cast her in a harsh light, famously writing, "You are the devil's gateway." He laid the sins of humanity squarely at her feet. Later, Augustine of Hippo used Eve's act to formulate the doctrine of original sin, a concept that would profoundly shape Western theology and culture for centuries. Eve became the ultimate symbol of female weakness, temptation, and disobedience. In this new narrative, a counterbalance was needed, and it was found in Mary, the mother of Jesus. Mary was hailed as the new Eve, the obedient virgin whose faith redeemed the failure of the first Eve. This created a stark dichotomy that reinforced a spiritual hierarchy. Eve represented sin and ruin, while Mary represented purity and salvation. This theological framing had devastating real-world consequences. For centuries, the story of Eve was weaponized to justify the subjugation of women. Her supposed sin was used to argue that women were inherently more susceptible to temptation and therefore unfit for leadership roles in the church and society. The link between femininity and sin became deeply embedded in the cultural psyche, fueling misogyny and contributing to horrific events like the witch trials, where women were systematically persecuted. Medieval and Renaissance art often reinforced this view, depicting Eve as a seductive, lustful, and dangerous temptress, her body intertwined with the serpent. This powerful imagery wasn't just art, it was propaganda that shaped how an entire civilization viewed women. But in the modern era, a powerful revaluation is underway. Feminist theologians and scholars are looking back at the original texts and reclaiming Eve from centuries of misogynistic interpretation. They argue that Eve should not be seen as the sinner but as the first philosopher, the first human to actively seek wisdom and moral understanding. Her choice represents humanity's innate longing for knowledge and freedom, a desire that is not a flaw but a fundamental part of our nature. Her title, Mother of All Living, is being recentered, emphasizing her role in bringing forth life, resilience, and the future of humanity, not death. To reclaim Eve is to challenge a narrative of shame and restore a story of courage, dignity, and life. Eve's story doesn't exist in a vacuum. It resonates with powerful myths from cultures all around the world. In Greek mythology, there's Pandora, the first woman, whose curiosity leads her to open a box that releases all the troubles of mankind. In ancient Mesopotamia, the goddess Inanna embarks on a perilous descent into the underworld in her quest for wisdom and power. Many indigenous and African traditions feature stories where a female figure is responsible for bringing knowledge, agriculture, or fertility to her people. These parallels reveal a universal human question. Is the pursuit of knowledge a gift or a curse? Is the feminine a dangerous force or a life-giving one? Eve's story is not just a religious tale. It is a profound part of this global conversation about what it means to be human. Eve was never just about an apple. She was about choice, about knowledge, about the timeless tension between the safety of innocence and the risks of wisdom. She was not the end of paradise. She was the beginning of the human story. By reducing her to a single moment of temptation, we miss the point. Her story is our story. To reclaim Eve is to reclaim ourselves. Flawed, yes, but also curious, courageous, and endlessly resilient. Eve is not a curse to be overcome. She is the mother of all living. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive. If you found this story as fascinating as I do, please like this video and subscribe to the channel for more content that reclaims the lost stories of history. See you next time.